Tonight's subject surrounds the next point. And this next point is وَأَجْسَادُهُمْ نَحِيفًا. أَجْسَادُهُمْ نَحِيفًا means that their bodies are lean. Obviously, I'm not the fittest person to be discussing this subject. However, the objective of our discussion is to become that ultimate and righteous individual. But it isn't as it's quite addressed. See, because some people, when it comes to the sufra or comes to the banquet, they ravish the food. And their bodies resemble someone that's just walked out of the Egyptian famine. You've seen those people. They're really thin, yet they eat as much as 3 or 4 men. And then there's those that are rather robust in figure, and they eat lightly. However, the discussion is in general. In general, because we're not looking at exceptions or exceptional cases, we are looking at a general case. In general, these people, their bodies are lean. These righteous people have lean bodies. Now, the whole concept about this is with regard to their dealing with this world. See, a righteous person is not someone that has sought what is most desirable in this world. A righteous person is someone that moves along and takes everything that is given to them, and they are content. They do not want anything that is any more or any less than what they are given. They are pleased with what Allah Azza wa Jal has given them and provided them with. The reason for this, because there is a deep connection with the soul and your stomach. That someone that wants to worship and have a pure soul and a rested soul and excel in their worship is someone that has given rest to their stomach. Take a look for those that go during the march in the Arba'een. These people that are marching do not eat much. They do not eat much, and they carry themselves. They travel a distance of 60, 70 miles. Or a little less or a little more. Some travel this distance within a day or two. Some take 3 or 4 days. But they travel, and some do a distance that's even greater. And this swiftness of the soul, and likewise the Hajj, when you see the people carry themselves, it is from the lightness of their stomach. When I chase the banquets, when I chase what is desirable, then I don't have this adequate, I don't have this purified and this soul that has a yearning for worship. Because the spirit has to be starved from what it desires in order for it to give. See, if your spirit is satiated, take a look, for example, at a child. Have you seen those children that are really spoiled? You know, those children that their parents give them titles at a young age. You know, a child walks in and they say, Sayyid Hassan, and the guy is still, you know, filling his diapers with human waste. But they give him a title and they're respecting him. Oh, Sayyid wants to touch this. Oh, I'm going to buy him an iPad because I think he's worthy of having one now. And all this stuff, this child is spoiled and spoiled and spoiled and spoiled. And then you expect the child to have manners when he speaks to people. He spits in someone's face. And it's normal. Why? Because this child has never heard the word no. He's never heard the word stop. So this child becomes rebellious and thinks the whole world becomes subservient to them. They never excel in life. In fact, people always avoid them. They'll ask you, is so-and-so coming over? And you say, yes. Is he bringing his little child with him? You know, you hold yourself back from using some expletive. And then he says yes, and then you say to yourself, all right, I think I'm going to give it a pass today. I won't be attending because this child doesn't have these moral standards, because this child has been given a green light to do what they want. The soul, when it's been spoilt, and when the soul is being given what it wants, the soul does not operate properly. You say, let's pray a supererogatory prayer. Let's do something mustahab. Let's do something extra. And the soul says, Anti lahalak, you're on your own, mate. I've been getting what I want. You've been giving me everything that I want. There's no need for me to excel. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, when it comes to eating and drinking, He says, "Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu, innahu la yuhibbul musrifin." You probably heard the terms israf, someone's a musrif, and someone that is a mubadhir. A mubadhir in the Quran, they are mentioned to be the brethren of the devils. They are the brothers of the devil. That they are people that are associated with Satan. As a musrif is different to a mubadhir. A musrif is different to a mubadhir. A mubadhir is someone that wastes food, that throws food, that launches food into the bin, or puts food in excessive amounts, and this excess food is thrown out. This is a mubadhir. A musrif is someone that's extravagant with what they eat. And a musrif is someone that eats in excess, that eats more than they need to eat. It's different to tabdhir. As for tabdhir, it's throwing food away. Both are considered waste of food. Both methods are considered wasting food. But a musrif is worse than a mubadhir, because the musrif is also harming their body and they are affecting their soul. One thing I always tell people, when people come up and say, I want to invite you to iftar in Shahr Ramadan, and I have lectures, I always tell them, if you want to invite me, don't invite me because I'm not capable, because if I eat too much, or if you eat an excessive amount, I can't get up and speak. I don't have the ability. You'll be sitting there going, how's this next word going to come out? You know, this is how you feel. Some of you are thinking right now, I wonder how I got here. Because they ate excessively. This excessive amount of eating, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلَا تُصْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla does not like those that are extravagant when it comes to their eating. They're excessive. They pass their boundaries when it comes to what they eat. And this is what causes you to become slothful when it comes to worship. This is what causes you to delay your prayers. This is what causes you not to approach your prayers properly. This is what causes the individual to enter that stage we mentioned of inattentiveness on the first night, of ghafla, that stage of forgetfulness, that stage where your heart is trifling. Your heart is in another place. It's not where it should be. Now, when it comes to eating in excess, it isn't only the gluttonous that eat in excess. It isn't only the people that have breakfasts or as Homer Simpson would say, he says, I discovered a meal between breakfast and brunch. You know, those people that have that excessive amount of eating. It is also people that do weight training, people that do fitness. People that do weight training are told by their fitness instructors to do something that's totally against Islam. They're told to drink a lot of water. Drinking a lot of water, excess amount of water, is dangerous. It's not something that is good. Anything in excess is not good. And then they told them you need to have 6 meals a day, this much between. Eating in excess is wrong. Now when you have 6 small meals, that is okay. But these people, when they're doing weight training and weight gaining, they're eating huge amounts of protein, thinking, oh well, protein's not going to put on fat, only carbohydrates would be, they'll give us all these stored fat, lipids, whatever they call them, onwards, all from eating carbs. So then they start to play, don't eat this, don't eat that. Allah Azza wa Jal does not tell us not to eat this and not to eat that. Eat from what Allah has permitted you and do not be excessive. Don't overdo it. This is the whole way for your program to be. Even those that decide to become ascetic, they're wrong too. You know those people that starve themselves and have a pistachio a day or a date a day and they think they're going to get nearer to God? You know, some of them, they say they starved. They say this alim, you would eat one date a day, one pistachio a day. And they say, and he saw the Prophet. I'm surprised he didn't see God. You starve yourself, you're going to hallucinate. It's only natural. You will start seeing things. You will start seeing all these amazing, weird and wonderful things. Just as those that are intoxicated, when you starve yourself, you will hallucinate. That's why they have these people that enter a stage in their life where they resort to drugs. Models, catwalk models and that, they resort to drugs because their life requires them not to eat. They have to starve themselves in order to look as thin as possible. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us through His messenger, when it comes to consuming, when it comes to eating, we are told to compartmentalize our stomach. When we say compartmentalize, you know, when you break it up into categories. Here in the narration it says, a-thulth lit-ta'am. 1/3 is for what? Food. And then 1/3 is for drink, for water. And then it says, and the other third is air, is for what you breathe. Because there is air in the stomach. This is the way that we are told to compartmentalize our body. In another tradition, it says, ليس شيء أبغض إلى الله من البطن الملان. Nothing is more hated in the eyes of God than someone that has a full stomach. Because they become extremely, like I said, slothful, they become lethargic. Now, in another tradition, when it speaks about wisdom, it says, نور الحكمة الجوع and والتباعد من الشبع. That the light of wisdom comes from hunger and avoiding filling your stomach completely. If you look at this tradition, you think to yourself, how is this so? Before I continue, I'm just going to go to one more tradition. There's one more hadith where these people come to the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Qambar answers the door, and Amir al-Mu'mineen says, who's at the door? He says, they are your Shia, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. And when he looks at them, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, I do not see the signs of my Shia on them. This is why whenever someone calls you Shia, once this guy asked me at work, he said, you a Muslim brother? And I said, yes. He said, are you Shia or Sunni? I said, I wish I was a Shia. I said, I'm not even there. This is another level altogether. This is not just any level anyone can achieve. When someone says you're a Shia, I think, they've given us, we're hitting way over our head with this. We're going way over our head. It's too big for us. Because when you look at the way a Shia is described, of the descriptions of a Shia, they say khams al-butun, which means that their stomachs are empty. In one tradition, it says from hunger. Their stomachs are empty from hunger. Another tradition, it says from fasting. Their stomachs are empty from fasting. That when you hear that growl in your stomach, when you're hungry, these people are hearing this growl all the time. This does not mean starvation. Listen. This means they do not eat in excess. They eat only what is necessary and what they need to eat. This is the point in that matter. Firstly, when it comes to health reasons, you get away from indigestion. You get away from that feeling where you're totally full. You know, that feeling where they tell you the food is up to my throat. They fill it all the way. You know, their epiglottis is no longer working the way it's just sealed. There's no way out. The whole way, the esophagus is full. There's nothing else. Their stomach is absolutely compacted. And the food has not been digested properly. This is for health reasons. Even when it comes to your dunya, for going to work, for doing activities. If you have eaten excessively or you drank excessively, you cannot undertake these kind of activities and work and what have you. But when it comes to your worship, and this is the main point, when it comes to your worship, look at those that break their fast before they pray, and then look at those that pray before they fast. Look at the difference in worship. Sometimes people might go, all right, I'm just going to get the prayers out of the way, but that's their prerogative. But I'm talking those that pray in a normal manner. Before eating and after eating, there's a difference in the worship. Before eating, your prayers in hunger, there's tawajjuh. After you're full, you go, how am I going to get this over? You can barely get into ruku'. When you go into sujood, you feel all the food coming down. This is what happens. When I fast, not only does it have an effect on my worship, it has an effect on suppressing my desire. If you look in Shahr Ramadhan at even your natural desires with regard to men and women. I know there's kids here, so I don't want to dwell on this point. Even that is suppressed. It isn't the same. Even if you are on fire 340 days of the year during Shahr Ramadan, or 330 days of the year during Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak, that fire goes down a few notches. You know, it goes down a few notches, it reduces, there's a the desire is suppressed because of this hunger. It has such a great link with the remainder of your body. If you eat less, you sleep less as well. You know, when someone has a heavy meal, what happens? They go into one of those all-night slumbers. You eat less, you sleep less, and less sleep is healthy. This is another thing that goes against fitness. When you sleep, health comes from what? Eating less, drinking less, and sleeping less. Not as for, this is from the traditions and narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. This is where your health comes from. The other thing is, if you take a look, the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, on the night of his martyrdom, on the night that he is struck, they say that when the food was put before him, that he only ate little. He only ate a small amount. When they asked him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why did you not eat anymore? He mentions that when the command of Allah, my time for death, or that moment that I'm required, حتى لا يأتيني أمر الله, or حتى يأتيني أمر ربي وأنا خميس. He mentions the word empty. That when God commands me for my moment, I am empty. I'm not someone that is in a state where I'm absolutely full. Also, when it comes to eating less, you are more giving. If you eat less, if you are someone that eats a lot, and if you eat excessively, when you've got a sandwich with you, you've noticed those people when they get their lunch and they're very protective over it. Or they get a plate of food, they're very protective. They're afraid if someone takes a drumstick from the plate. Why? Because they eat so much. Those that don't eat much, they're very giving. Why? Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ. This shuh, this desire that you have for yourself, when you can protect yourself from it, you're giving. You have something, you don't mind giving it to someone else because you're eye is not on this thing. You're not attached to this thing. You have no attachment to this. But when you consume a lot, when you eat a lot, you know, and for example, someone asks you to eat something that you have, or someone asks you for something that you have, you'll find that you'll have dizzy spells. Something's wrong. You know, someone wants to eat, or someone has asked me, you know those people when you tell them, give in the way of Allah, and they fear this because they're in a state where it's difficult for them to give. Also, in this month, that you remember those that are less fortunate. As the Messenger of Allah says in his sermon, you remember those that don't have. You remember those that you have more than what they have. You know, there are a lot of people in this world that die of hunger. It's not only a small amount. People that are malnourished. And when you live in this manner, especially in this month, you start to realize these, and you worry about these people. You're not worried about having a banquet every night. Besides this point, you also become accustomed and get ready for the hunger of the Day of Judgment, as the sermon of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Just with the final point, when it comes to keeping your stomach empty, and this point of keeping your stomach empty, your hajj, your ziyarat, every single act of worship that you're called upon is done with ease, and it's done with, when you do this action, you do it with more spirituality, and you have a better, how am I going to put it? You establish more tawajjuh towards it, that you act in a more spiritual manner, and it's less of an activity when you look at this. Also, those that aren't excessive are those that live the best and the most simple lives. They say when Salman Al-Farsi, there was a fire in the buildings and the houses surrounding where he was and his house. They say he got up and he grabbed his mushaf, his Quran, and he grabbed his sword and walked out. And then everyone's worried about what? Everyone's worried about all their worldly things and everything that they have. And then he says to them, هَكَذَا يَنْجُو الْمُخَفِّفِينَ, that those, al-mukhaffun, that those that are light with what they carry are the ones that are always saved. Likewise, when it comes to the belly, when your belly's not full, you're the one that excels. You're the one that can move and act in a more spiritual manner when it comes to worship. Taban, this discussion is a discussion for me first and foremost, before others, as all the discussions previous to this. This discussion is something that if we don't take from and if we don't act upon, we cannot achieve this character that we wish to arrive at. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to purify our bellies and our souls from what He has forbidden, and to make us of the righteous, of the followers of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. وهذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.